Welcome to today's tutorial. Today we want to learn how to insert pictures, charts, shapes, and smart art into our Microsoft PowerPoint presentation slide. So without wasting time, let's go to the insert menu. From there, under the image group, we choose to insert from this device. You can select from any of the file location of your choice. In this case, I'll go to my pictures, and then when I'm done, I can then click on insert. So when I click on insert, the picture will be inserted into my slide. When the image is selected, notice a contextual tab will appear. And if you click on that, it will give you several commands and tools to use in formatting your image. First of all, we look at the removal of background. So if I have the image selected and I click on remove background options, so you see the background of that image will be removed. But this may not be as perfect as you may wish to have, although there are a couple of applications to help you define options and parts that you want to remove from any image. Softwares like CorelDRAW and so on. Let's undo. Aside from that, when you select the image and choose the format to options, you also have options to correct the image. What this implies that you can brighten the image, you can increase or decrease the contrast of that image, as well as how sharp you want the image to be. We have options, default options as brightness 40%, contrast 20%. We have brightness 20% and contrast 20%. We also have options as brightness 0, that's a normal, while contrast is minus 40. So you could choose any of these as you hover your mouse through it, the ones that is appealing to you, then you can settle on. For the context of this lesson, I will choose to remain everything at plus 20 brightness and plus 20 contrast. You can change the color of the image by clicking on the change color icon, and then you choose a color of your choice. In this case I'm choosing saturation 0%. There are other options also which you can use. Under recoloring, you can also choose to use blue accent color 5. There are other options as well, so you try that yourself. We have the sepia. Aside from that, you can also produce an artistic effect. Let's undo this and have our default. So if I choose the artistic effect options, there are options such as pencil, the pencil sketch. We also have options as the chalk sketch. So if you click on any of that, you're going to see the effects being applied to that image. Let's undo that. And then aside from that, you can change a particular image. If you don't want this image again, you can click on the change image option and then load an image of your choice, and then that will replace the previous image. Let's undo this. Aside from that, having applied an image color or an effect, you can also reset the image by clicking on the reset picture option. So when you click on the reset picture option, all the effects that you have applied, that is to say all the adjustment made, be it by color corrections or be it by change of color effect or artistic effect, those effects or adjustment will be removed and the picture or image will be reset to the default setting. Furthermore, you can influence the picture's borders and style by selecting the image, and then you choose any of the border styles you want, whether this metal frame you click, or any of this, the double frame, or that's with a reflection, or the ones that have a soft edges. So any of these can be used in order to create a presentation that is much more appealing to your audience. Let's undo that. There is also room for you to customize your picture. We can customize the picture border here. Having select our image, we can choose to influence the line, color, style, and then as well as the thickness. So let's say we want to use a red color, for instance. And then having choose a red color, you come back to the weight and then influence how bold or how thick you want the outline of the image to be. You can also choose the outline style, whether you want dotted, whether you want dash, as the case may be. And then aside from that, you can also choose to use the eyedropper. What the eyedropper tool does is to use any color within the image as a border color. So for instance, I want to use the color of this man's back, so I choose the eyedropper option, and when I point, you notice the eyedropper will indicate to me the color name blue. If I click on that, that will give me the exact color on the man's back as my border color. Also, Microsoft PowerPoint have effects for you to use and apply to your image so as to make your presentation much more appealing too. So when you select the image, go to picture effect. We have first preset effect. If you notice, here is the default option, none is being selected. That's the highlighted one. So if I choose any of these, say preset 1, you'll notice it changes. If I also may change my mind and go for effect preset 5 or maybe preset 6 or as well as 9, so as I hover my mouse through those effects, you notice the changes and there will be a preview of what it carries. Let's undo. There is also room for you to customize your own effect, ranging from shadow, reflection, glow, soft edges, bevels, and 3D rotations. For instance, if I want to choose a shadow effect, currently there is no shadow effect. If I choose to have a shadow effect, though I have options of outer, inner, and perspective, I could choose to have a perspective shadow effect, say at the lower left options, if that's the choice that I want. There's also options available for me as regarding reflections. At default, it is none option that is highlighted, the none. There's no reflection. That's what it means. But I also have options here to apply reflections from the listed options here. So if I click, you see reflections will simply bring the reflections of this image. Now, we also have options for glue, which will apply a color, a glue like color of your choice around the image or around the picture as well. Let's say I choose this. The intensity of the glue color varies and also depends on the choice of the designer. So there's also options for more color. You could choose any of the color of your choice here, and then you could also have options to make the adjustment as regards the intensity of the glueness. Aside from that, we also have soft edges. What soft edges does is it will fade off the boundaries of the images or the picture as well. There's also room for increase in intensity or a decrease in the intensity of the softness as it is. Let's say I reset this picture and then I go in to apply a soft edge effect. So as I hover my mouse through the options, you notice the intensity and how intense or how less intense the soft edges options is being applied. There's also options for you down here to manipulate the soft edges command as it relates to you. And then let's say on soft edges I choose to have a point of 0.6 or 0.7 or 0.12, or let's say I type 0.50. So you see how that is. Aside from that, we also have options such as bevel, which will make it look more like a block molded image. Say I want to have this. You see the bevel. There's also options for you to manipulate the intensity of the beveled 3D effect applied by clicking this. Aside from that, we also have rotational effect, wherein as you hover your mouse through, you're going to have options for you to choose from the previewed ones. Microsoft PowerPoint allows you the options of rotating or aligning the image in your slide while you're working. Let's say I select this image and I want to rotate it. I have options here to use this control point here. Click and hold down the mouse button and turn or rotate it to the right or to the left manually as I may wish to. Let's undo that. There is also options for you to rotate, say 90 degrees to the right. You can also rotate 90 degrees to the left. We also have other options such as to flip the image horizontally or vertically as the case may be. Let's undo that. In the case of cropping, you can manually crop your image or you can use a shape. Cropping simply means removing the unwanted parts of that image. So if I choose the crop option, I can manually drag and cover, and when I'm done, I will then have to click outside the image area, and then that will return the areas that I want to have on my image. Let's undo that. In the case of cropping with shape, when you select the image, you can as well choose crop to shape option and then choose an image of your choice or a shape of your choice, pardon me. Let's say I choose the heart. So you see the image will crop itself in line with the selected shape. There are also other shapes options that I can choose from. Let's say I want to choose the hexagon options, so the image will crop itself in line with that. Although in our subsequent lesson, we shall take you in details how to manipulate and control and edit shapes as well. Next on our agenda today, we want to look at charts. So from the Insert tab, I go to Illustration Group and I click on Charts. I'll have the Insert Charts dialog box here, and down here I have different categories of charts. We have the column chart, the line chart, and the pie chart. In this first type, the column chart, we also have several classes of the column charts. We have the clustered column, we have the stacked column, and we also have the 100% stacked column. Note, as I click on each of these chart style, you will see a preview of it down here below. So for the course of today, I choose column charts and precisely the clustered column. So having choose that, I'll click OK. When the Microsoft Excel is loaded, in other words, when you click OK, the Microsoft Excel will load, meaning interpolation has taken place. That is to say, two computer applications sharing the same data. So here is Microsoft Excel, and behind it is Microsoft PowerPoint. So the changes you make here in Excel will affect it on Microsoft PowerPoint. Let's say I want to have the world population. So as I choose continent under my category 1, I replace it with Africa, 2, and so on with other continents. The same with the series. I'll choose to replace the series with range of ages, say infants, and so on. So you notice that as I make those changes here, it will affect the same here in Microsoft PowerPoint. So without wasting time, let us paste what we had copied. So notice that we are having continents down here under categories, and we're also having teenage, infant, teenage, and as well as, let's say, adults on the series section. Notice that we can also control which series we want that it displays on PowerPoint, though it may be in Microsoft Excel. This is what I mean. If I come to the corner of this blue box and then hold down and then drag it up, you notice I have excluded adults and has excluded North America as well. If I want to include North America but exclude adults, I'll hold it down. Likewise, if I want to exclude North America but include adults series, I could also do the same. So when you're satisfied with the data that you have on the Microsoft Excel chart, you can close it, and here is our Microsoft PowerPoint. At this point in time, I want to pause and then save our work so that we will continue. So for me to save our work, I go to File menu and then I go to Save As. I choose the document name that I may want, or the file name as the case may be, or the folder. I could choose to browse and then say on my desktop. So on my desktops, I can give a name, say class 1. And then under this Save As type, I would love to maintain Microsoft PowerPoint presentation. There are a couple of options here. Save as PDF, but ensure that you save it as Microsoft PowerPoint first before you come to save it as PDF, as a PDF file. The option also to save it as MPEG video. We shall take this in detail in our subsequent classes. And then when I'm done, I can also click Save. Notice that our document name has changed to class 1. Now, having got your charts here on your slide, there are also a couple of options for you to choose from as regarding the chart styles. So we can click on this. When we click on this, we'll have ready-made styles of charts which you can choose from. As you hover your mouse through, you will notice a preview of it, so you can settle on any of the one that you choose to have. Aside from that, let's undo. You can customize your own chart's appearance as well. As regarding color, if you click on these color options, there are 2 types of color depending on the versions of Microsoft PowerPoint that you're using. You could choose to use the single color format, or being the monochrome, that is to say color in variations from the darker and to the brighter one. And then we could also choose to have color categories and of palettes. So let's say I settle for this now in this case, and then or I may choose to settle for a monochrome color of blue. Let's undo that. And then in addition to that, we can also add chart elements, that is to say either chart title or the table below. So on charts elements, having clicked that, I have options to bring in axis title. So I could choose to have an axis title, that's the horizontal one, and then here I could have continents, and then at this point I could choose to have on the vertical I could choose to have population in million, So let's say I have population in million, and then there are a couple of other features that you could wish to have. Let's say you want to have the table, the charts table below. There are options here. At default is none, so you can choose with key legends as the case may be. So we now have a table below it with key legends. Of course, we may choose to remove this pure legend alone, and we have none. So this table with legend will be a guide. to whosoever is interpreting the chart. There are also options as the axis title. I could choose to have the axis title, the chart title, sorry, above it. So I can choose to have the world population, pardon me, world population. So that's it. But that's not all though. We can as well format the charts. In other words, we can customize the appearance aside from using the default styles that we have here. You can customize the appearance on your own. So I haven't selected the chart now. I can choose to influence the shape. That is to say, the background of it. I could choose to have a single color for that, or I could choose to have a gradient color. So under shape field, I go to the gradients. I could choose to have a gradient background. There are also a couple of options which you could choose to have a texture as well. But make sure that you keep your things simple enough so as to make your presentation appealing and responsible as well. Aside from that, we could also choose a chart bars. Let's say I select this series, the series of infants. I click on the infant bar once, and so you notice it will select everything infant across the slide, and then I could then influence the field. Let's say I want to have a light green for infants, and then I choose to change that of Africa to say blue, to a blue color. Sorry, that was the outline, the shape field now, the blue color. I can also influence the outline of this by clicking it and choosing the outline color. I want to have red, and then on the outline weight, I could increase the thickness to be bolder and so on. But if I want to influence a particular category of a particular series in a category, let's say the infants of Africa, I'll have to click that once. So when I click it once, you notice that it will isolate. Let me take that again so you're not confused. So I double click this. It will isolate this. When it isolates this, I can now give that a color, say purple. The same thing, I could also influence the outline of it to be green as well. So that's it on charts. But before I end on charts, I can also tell you that you could also change the chart type. You could change the chart type by clicking on chart type and come to make the changes as relating to what you wish to have. You could also edit the data by clicking on edit data option. It will take you back to Excel. That interpolation will take place again, whereby you can also influence the data that you wish to have as well, or make the necessary changes that you wish to. Of course, we shall look at that in detail when we take on the chart in our tutorial on Microsoft Excel. Make sure you subscribe and like so that you will receive notification as regards that. All right. So now I come to the Insert tab or menu, and then I click on New Slide, and I choose the blank. So you notice a new blank slide will be inserted, giving it number 3 on my slide pane. So here is the new slide. So now what we want to do next is to insert shapes. So going to the Insert menu again, I have options for shapes here. And then we have different categories. It could be lines, it could be arrows, and could be some basic shapes as the case may be. But in this case, I want to choose a rectangle, and I choose a rectangle. And I click on the slide, hold down my mouse, and then drag the mouse downward, but in an angular perspective though. And so here is my rectangle. I've been able to draw that. When I draw a shape, the contextual menu of that shape will appear here as a new tab, and then giving me rooms to customize the shape as regards color. I could choose to have a purple color for that, and then as well as there's a couple of options to also use gradients. If I choose to have gradients, we have the light variations and as well as the dark variations. So I could choose to settle for light variations, and in this case from the center option. And then that's notwithstanding, I could also influence the outline. What we mean by outline is the line binding the shapes as well. So I could choose to have a red color for the outline, but that's not all though. There's room for me to influence the weight of the outline as well. So I could choose to influence the weight, and in addition to that, there's also room for me to influence the style. Let's say I use square dots. So there is also ready-made samples and default shapes styles here or theme which you could choose from as well. Let's undo that. You could as well add a text to your own shape by right-clicking it, and then you choose the edit text option, so it will give you room to add a text. Let's say welcome is what I want to write, and then here I have welcome. I have room to select that text and then come to home menu, influence the sizes, increase or decrease, influence the font style as well as the color and what have you. So still on the shape formats tab, there is also room for you to influence the shape with any effects. We could have bevel effects, makes it as if it's a molded one, and there is also other effects as glue as well. You could also edit a shape by clicking on edit points, and then there will be room for you to drag this and then drag this. You can also right click that and add a point there and then influence it. You can also click on any place, right click and click on add a point, and so on and so forth, depending on what you want to achieve or draw as well. The next thing we want to do is to insert another shape. Let's say at this point in time we want to take something from the callout section, say thoughts bubble, and then I click and hold down my mouse, I drag it angular downward, and that draws out. So notice that I can click the center, hold down, and then pan or drag my hand into this area. So that covers this one. But you know, I may wish to have something behind or wish to send something up front. So if I choose this one that is up front now, I can come to the arrange group and I say send backward. So you see this other one will then be behind the first drawn shape. Then I can also choose to bring it forward again, as the case may be. You notice it has controls such as rotate, which we have done this in our image. And then we can also, let's undo this, we can stretch it and increase the size, as well as click and hold down, come downward, and then that will shrink or decrease the size as well. You notice it has a yellow control point here. This will also help influence the shapes of it. Let's say you want it turned to this side, and you notice you can use that to turn to this side or to shrink or to let it point upward, as the case may be. So make sure you figure that out in each of these shapes that you have and play out any of the effects or style that you want to. Microsoft PowerPoint allows you to insert Smartart graphics to visually communicate any information. So let's do that now. We go to insert menu, and then under illustration we choose the Smartart. So they choose a Smartart dialog box will appear, and then we have different categories of that. We have the list, we have the process, we have the circle and hierarchy, and in each of these there are also different types of it. So under hierarchy, let's say we want to start with organizational chart option, and then having select that, we click OK. Let's say we want to have the CEO here, and then we want to have the secretary, and then we want to have director or director 1, and then we also have director 2, D2, and we also have director 3, D3. Pardon me. And then in each of that, you can insert something between, or after. Say I want to insert director 4, I can select director 3, right click it, and then choose the add shape option. Say I select add after, so I could have director 4. I have D4 there. I could select each of these texts, and then having select that, I can choose to influence the text, the font style manually, and then aside from that, I could increase the size or decrease the size as the case may be. Aside from that, I could also select all at once by selecting the boundary of the Smartart, and then uniformly I could choose a text style or a font style of my own, say Time New Roman, all, and then uniformly select a font size for each, say 28. That's notwithstanding though, there's also room to influence the color of the font as well as you wish to have. Furthermore, we can also influence the appearance of the Smartart by choosing the ready-made styles here. We have the brick scenes and so many others. Aside from that, we could also influence the color of it. We can influence the color of it from choosing any of the color theme samples here, and then we can also influence each of these shape. Let's undo this and then influence the shape manually. We select this, we can change the shape as well. Let's say change the shape. We want to have an oval shape there, and here we may choose to have an hexagon or pentagon as the case may be. So let's have an hexagon in this case. So you can manually select each of those shapes and also influence their appearance as regarding the color and the outline color as well. That's to say the fill color and the outline color. We can also influence the background of this Smartart by selecting the boundary of it, and then we go to fill, and then let's choose a color for it. Let's say we want to go for that color that I've just selected, and then we may choose to have a gradient of that particular color. There are different variations, the darker or the lighter variations. Let's use a lighter one in this case. Aside from that, we could also influence the appearance as regarding the 3D effect of that Smartart, and then we could also influence the shadow of it, whether we want an internal or external shadow or a perspective shadow as the case may be. Then aside from that, we could bring in other effects like reflection, and then we could bring in effects like glow and so many more. That's not all. We can also add a shape to this. Even the beginning, that is to say from the CEO, we can add a shape before, after, or above, or below as the case may be. Let's undo that. We could also break this chain by giving it an assistant. And so let's say we add an assistant 1, and we also want to add an assistant to it again. We select it, we right click, and then we go to add another assistant again. So we select that and type assist 1 and type here 2. So at the end of it, we have been able to add assistant 1, assistant 2 by creating a tree of this D1. Next, we want to learn how to insert table into our project. So we go to insert menu, and under new slide, we choose blank. So having that already, we go to insert menu again, and then under table, we hover our mouse across, and as we hover the mouse across, you notice it will indicate here the numbers of columns and the numbers of rows that we have selected so far. And so let's have, in this case, 3 columns and 4 rows. And when my cursor is at that point, I click it, and then it will insert the table. So let's have column A, column B, and then column C. And then in addition to that, let's say we want to have countries, let's say USA, and then we have England, and then we also have Australia as well. We can select each of these and then influence the content of it, probably the font size or the font style manually. We can also select the entire of the table by clicking its boundary, and when we click the boundary, we can uniformly change what happened to it as regarding size, as regarding the font style, and so on. Then, in addition to that, under the contextual menu, we have two options: table design and table layout. So under table design, we have ready-made styles or ready prepared styles here that we can choose from. So if we click that, we hover our mouse through, we will have a preview of what it looks like. And let's say this is what we want to have in this context. And then we can also influence the shading of it manually if we want to have a gradient shading and so on. And then aside from that, we could choose to have different text styles effects to it, probably text reflection effects as you wish. And then you could also wish to influence the content of the table as regarding the color of the font and so on. We also have options here for you to influence what happened as regarding the line styles and so many other options as well. Then we also have other table effects like bevel effects and so on if you wish to have as that. Then under layouts, we have options for us to select here, and then where the cursor is blinking, we can choose to insert a row below, and then in this case we can choose to click here and then insert a row above. The same applies with inserting to the right or inserting a column to the left, as the case may be. Let's undo that. Aside from that, we can also select the entire table, or you select each of the cells manually and influence the alignment. You could have text aligned to the center. Let's have it there. Or text aligns to the center and then bottom of the center or head or above. In other words, you could also define the height of the cells more so that you see the alignment: center, bottom, and top, right, left, and so on. You could influence the direction of the text if you want to rotate the text as well. And then let's undo that. There's also options for you to lock the ratio, and then there's also options for you to increase or narrow the margin as well. There's also options for us to delete a cell. You could select the entire of this and then you click on delete the row, or you could select this and then you say I don't want that particular column again. That column will go. So that's it. We will give you more class as regarding tables in our Excel tutorial. So make sure you subscribe, you like, you share to receive more tutorials. They are all free, and that will help you change your current status as regarding digital knowledge. Thanks so much and remain abundantly blessed.